When Aksaro saw it, he was going crazy. He had lost the rhyme to his father, and he had lost it badly. He thought Soar was the biggest chance of his life, and finally this life. Misery had shown its good side to him. But now he realized that Soar had also turned out to be a disappointment. Soar with the same purple scarf that he had bought for her, and with that same sweet smile. She was always on one side of the picture, and on the other side of Aksi was a man about 50-something years old. With his salt and pepper hair, the man was holding the 18-year-old girl tightly in his arms, and the girl was clinging to him in a certain way. It was as if she had found a lost love after 1,000 years hidden behind the curtain of this romantic picture, as if the girl had found a wealthy suitor. A bitter and strange secret was hidden that sparked a horrific crime. And about a week after this picture was taken, the butchered body of a suitor was found in his own home. Hello friends, welcome to the Confession channel. You are watching and listening to another case from our series of videos. The case of the brutal murder of a 57-year-old man whose body was found bound hand and foot in his own home. If you are interested in confession reports from criminal cases, we would be delighted. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell next to it so you don't miss any new videos. This horrific criminal case was opened on the 10th of Bahman 1401 in the Kazaneh neighborhood of Tehran, with the brutal murder of a 57-year-old man by his 20-year-old son. The case, which had terrifying details, progressed in a completely strange manner, until it reached its conclusion 2 years later, in the most unbelievable way possible. To narrate this complex and strange case, we need to go back to the evening of Monday, the 10th of Bahman 1401, and recount the story from there for you. I will tell you that a 20-year-old boy named Behnam called the Police Emergency Center 110 and reported a horrific crime, he said. Moments before, he had returned home from work and encountered his father's lifeless body in the house. The officers from the 110 Police Emergency Center, when they arrived at the crime scene, were faced with a strange sight. The victim's hands, feet, and mouth were bound, and he had been killed with multiple stab wounds. There was no sign of theft or an accidental incident, the conditions of the corpse indicated. The victim had become a victim of something resembling revenge. The killer, without any haste or stress, had tied the victim's hands and feet and at leisure had inflicted multiple stab wounds to various parts of the body. All of the stabs were not deep, and it was clear that the intention was to torture the victim's body. However, ultimately, the blow to the back of the victim's neck led to the murder. There was no sign of forced entry into the house, and nothing was stolen. Everything indicated that the murder was familiar, so it was natural for the first person to be investigated to be Behnam, the 20-year-old son of the victim who had reported his father's murder to the police. The victim had separated from his wife, and among the children he had, only Behnam lived with him. 2 of his children were married and living in their own homes. The youngest daughter was living with her mother in Karaj. After informing the police, Behnam also called his brothers and sisters, and he told them what had happened. When the investigation of the victim's children and acquaintances began, Behnam was in a terrible state, and his brothers and sisters were trying to calm him down because he was the first person to arrive at the house and encounter the butchered body and the chaos in his father's home. He had faced it, but there was no choice. Behnam had to answer the questions of the special criminal judge to find a clue. In the initial investigation, Behnam described the incident like this. A few years ago, my father and mother separated. My mother lives in Karaj, and I was with her. I had some plans for my future life, and I felt like my dad could help me. That's why I came here. The night before the incident, we drank alcohol and smoked hookah until about 3 in the morning and talked. Then I went to my room, slept, and in the morning I hurriedly got up and went to work. When I returned in the evening, I was shocked. I saw my dad, tied up and bloody, lying in the middle of the house. I went closer to help him, but I saw he was bloody and seemed dead. I got really scared and called the police. These were the statements of the victim's son, while the security cameras of 2 neighbors' parking lots were at an angle. They were positioned overlooking the entrance of this house, and reviewing the cameras showed that in the past 24 hours, no one except Behnam had entered that old house, and the theory of a family crime was formed, With the order of the on-duty judge, Bainam, as the only suspect in the case, was sent for further investigation. To the Criminal Lauqo Investigations Department of Greater Tehran, and crime scene experts also came to the murder scene to find any possible clues that could help solve this case. The investigations by the forensic team confirmed. At least in the 3 days leading up to the murder, no one other than Bainam and his father had been in the house. There was no movement in the house. Also, the entire body of the victim was covered with Bainam's fingerprints. The forensic medical experts also confirmed this amount. The presence of Bainam's handprints on the victim's mouth and neck is unnatural. Bainam was still under interrogation at the Tehran police station, but he denied any involvement in this crime. He insisted on his initial story, saying that when he returned from work he found his father's body. However, further investigations and the examination of Bainam's calls and messages led the police to discover something that revealed the secret of this horrific crime. A 19-year-old girl who was simultaneously involved with both Bainam and his father was identified and summoned, and her statements at the police station provided the most crucial clue in this case, shedding light on it and in a way cornering Bainam, forcing him to confess to his father's murder. This 19-year-old girl named Sahar was initially Bainam's girlfriend, and they had even made some promises for marriage. However, Bainam's mother was opposed, and because of this, Bainam went to live with his father, hoping that with his father's help he could propose to Sahar, even arranging a meeting to introduce Sahar to his father. But the tragedy that occurs in the midst of this is that Bainam's father starts a relationship with the girl. Sahar, because of the father, loses interest in Bainam. When Bainam notices the girl's indifference, he becomes suspicious and starts following her. Yes, his girlfriend has gotten involved with his father. To make sure of the real story, he takes his father's phone and sees the romantic photos of Sahar and his father. He sees them together, and that's when he loses it and goes off the deep end. On the night of the crime, Bainam gets some food from outside, puts sleeping pills in it, and gives it to his father. When his father passes out, he ties up his hands, feet, and mouth, and after torturing him for nearly an hour, he stabs him in the neck from behind. He had planned it all. He planned to take the body outside, but there was too much blood in the house, and he felt he couldn't clean it up and would get caught, so he planned to act as if he was unaware. With the details of this case coming to light, Bainam is charged with premeditated murder and is sent to court. In court, he didn't have any specific defense and only said, "My father was very unfair to take the only love of my life away." That night, I tied him up to understand exactly what the story was. I didn't intend to kill him, but instead of admitting his mistake, that unfair man had the audacity to tell me that Sahar wasn't right for me. That unfair man said he wanted to marry her. I lost it and hit him, leading to accusations of murdering my father and reconstructing the crime scene. The victim's family, which included 2 sisters and a brother, were named Bainam, requested retribution and the issuance of a severe punishment. The murder case was referred to the court for the execution of the sentence. While Bainam was not far from the gallows, his 2 sisters forgave him in the presence of the court, but his only brother still demanded retribution. About 2 years had passed since the murder, and Bainam was still waiting in Gezel Hezar prison, in the midst of whether they would execute him soon, or his brother might grant forgiveness. This agonizing wait finally took its toll on Bainam, and on the night of January 8, 2024, he suffered a heart attack in his sleep. Before they could get him to the prison infirmary to do anything for him, he lost his life due to cardiac arrest. With the death of this convict awaiting execution, his case was effectively closed. Thank you for staying with us until this moment. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, support us and our activities by subscribing.